Alright mates, how's it going? In today's video, it's chapter 11 of Tides of Darkness by Aaron Rosenberg. We are now halfway through the book, so that's cool. Let's go!
Fucking bravo.
Keep them moving. We need to get through these pigs quickly.
Why?
What do you mean? Why what?
Why are we climbing? We could have gone around these mountains instead. Why are we taking this route? Scaling these peaks will slow us down. Doomhammer grunted, and then turned to face Rend and the other chieftains.
The humans think us stupid. They imagine us as dumb brutes, just as we see ogres. I encourage that image. Let them think us brainless. It only makes our conquest easier, because they underestimate us.
Rend's brother, Maim, then piped up. But we are headed to Quel'thalas, are we not?
Why didn't we just sail there? Would have landed long before the humans emerged from the hinterlands. Zul'jin said the elves are expert archers. We would have been trapped on our ships whilst they rained down arrows upon us, and we would have lost thousands, entire clans, before our ships even made it to shore.
But we could have marched around the mountains.
Are you afraid of a challenge, Rend?
Of course not. I'm up to the task. I was right behind you the entire climb, wasn't I?
Oh, then you do wish to challenge.
Doomhammer's change in tone caused Rend to back away slightly. Both the Blackhand brothers wished to lead the Horde, but they'd have to challenge and defeat Doomhammer in combat in order to achieve that. And they knew full well they'd lose that fight. Everybody knew it. He'd kill them even if they rushed him at the same time. Bunch of losers. But once Doomhammer realised Rend wasn't going to take the bait, and felt slightly disappointed by that, he continued.
Going around might have been faster, but our movements would have been more visible. This way we catch the elves unawares. If the humans survive their battle in the hinterlands and march around the mountains, they may well arrive at Quel'thalas before us. And then, if the elves allow them entry, they'll all be gathered together like sitting ducks when we attack. And if not, if they're still behind us, then they'll find us already established in Quel'thalas when they arrive. Either way, we win.
The crowd murmured, with several of them laughing and grinning, and even Rend Blackhand nodded. You are wise, War Chief. This is a good plan.
I know. Now let's move on. There are still several peaks to cover.
But before setting off, Orgrim turned to Zuluhead.
Where are they? On their way. Don't worry, they're swift. They'll reach us soon, and then the world will tremble at the sight of them.
Doomhammer nodded, and then turned to Zul'jin.
How far to Quel'thalas?
4 days' travel at this pace,
but my people could be there sooner. No, you stay with us. Don't worry, you'll get your chance to attack the elven homeland, but not until the Horde is right behind you.
Zul'jin pondered this for a moment, but seemed to accept it, and then finally, the Horde continued their march. 4 days later, the Horde had reached the final peak of the mountains. Beyond was the start of the Great Forest. We be going now?
Yeah, go now. Bring the fight to the elves. Spare no one.
Zul'jin grinned, and then tilted his head back to let loose a weird warble sound. And then a whole bunch of other forest trolls appeared in the small valley below. It was full of the buggers. There were far more than Doomhammer remembered Zul'jin bringing with him.
Far more. We're the Bark tribe. They'd be joining us.
Alright then. Doomhammer wasn't going to argue with that. A whole bunch of additional troops that all absolutely hated elves. Yes please. But the time for waiting and chats was over. Zul'jin howled and raced down the hill, with his followers and the new additional trolls charging into the forest as well. The forest defenders would soon rush to meet these invading assholes, which would keep them too busy to check their borders for any other threats. This was the plan. Doomhammer then signalled, and the Horde began its own march towards the forest. But rather than entering it, the orcs simply reached the first row of trees, raised their axes, and got to work, chopping and stuff. With each tree that fell, the elves would be deprived of protection. Plus, the wood they'd gather would keep the Horde's fires burning for weeks. A short time later, Doomhammer stood and observed the work progress when he noted motion in his periphery, and as he turned, he grunted to himself in annoyance, because Gul'dan was approaching, and he looked pretty excited about something.
What? Something you should see, mighty Doomhammer. Something that could aid the Horde greatly.
So, the war chief followed the warlock until they reached a big rock, carved with strange symbols.
What is that? I'm not sure exactly. A runestone. I believe it part of a greater collection, serving as a mystic barrier. Oh, not much of a barrier. Didn't stop us. No, because we use nothing more than our hands and feet and blades. These runestones restrict the use of magic within, most likely only allowing the elves to use it. Watch.
Gul'dan waved his arms about, and nothing happened. But he then strolled 10 paces away, waved his arms about again.
This helps us how exactly? These stones contain immense power. Power that I can harness for our own purposes.
Doomhammer raised an eyebrow at Gul'dan. He knew better than to give the old prick free rein.
I can use them to create an altar of storms. By channeling the energies within, I can transform creatures, make them more powerful, more dangerous, though they may suffer some disfigurement. No orc will let you experiment on them a second time.
At that, Gul'dan smiled, almost as if that was exactly what he'd expected Orgrim to say.
I will not use it on the orcs. I'll use a creature that would barely notice any reduction to intellect. Ogres.
Doomhammer considered that. They didn't have a lot of ogres in their ranks, but the idea of making those few even stronger was very tempting indeed. It was definitely worth the risk.
Alright, build one of these altars. We'll see what it does. If it works, I'll supply you with more ogres, and any other race you wish.
And we're leaving it there! So I think there's a bit of a discrepancy here, because in the game, the runestone used to build Altar of Storms was in Quel'thalas, which is that little island in the Western Plaguelands where Scholomance ends up being. Whereas this has them right up at the border of the Eversong Forest. But whatevs, doesn't matter. Let's not nitpick the story like some kind of neckbeard. As usual, links in the description for the book, my Patreon page, my Discord, all of that stuff. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!